Hey everybody, it's Sikander Scott Von Heldt here. We're going to start our live stream here in a second. We're eating some dinner, listening to Mershid play some music on SoundCloud. So just enjoy the serenity for a few minutes and we'll get started with our event. Like my mom's probably the only one. I actually get a few people that tune in, and we have some. My teacher has students all over, so we've been trying to kind of connect more people in different areas through technology, and she really hasn't been using that to its fullest. And so I just kind of recently became a webmaster and website stuff and recording classes that we do there. And so I've kind of been sharing these from the beginning, and then trying to just it's pretty interesting because it goes right out to YouTube, and then you can watch it later. And then somebody's like, oh, I really wanted to go to that one. The topic was cool. Well, then you can go back and I always have all the text and everything on my website, so everybody can go back and read stuff. Yeah.
So it's not streaming live, it's streaming live, right? Oh, it is streaming live, because I tried to do that one time. Yeah, it was the first couple of times that I did it, I had a lot of problems. I was using live stream, and now I'm using Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is a lot more stable. What about Ustream? Ustream's pretty cool too, yeah. I used to do that. I've done some demo videos like that. Back in the day, but yeah. The Google thing is cool because, like I said, it automatically creates a YouTube video. That's still there. Yeah, it's convenient. One less step. I play, man, but I'm not classically trained. I'm like a Neanderthal when it comes to making music. I play with my heart. If you tell me to play with G or F minor, I'm like, I don't know what that is. But if I hear the sound, I can mimic it. I'm like, oh, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So it's fun. I play drums mostly. Drums is my thing. I play bass as well. When I write songs on the guitar, I'm all over the map. That's what makes it. All kinds of different mediums. But I mean, music is the best. I mean, for me, that's the one thing I look forward to the most is getting together with my bros, jamming out. I don't know, man. I love it. I love the physicality of it. Yeah, I'm in a couple bands. I play with rock and roll band. I play drums in that, and then I play bass in another. I guess. So I contacted them. We just kind of started. We've kind of been at it. We're all different areas of life. The guitar player, him and I were in like a rap rock band, kind of like Rage Against the Machine for a while. I played drums in that band. So he's a guitar player in this band as well. And then the singer of this band is played black metal. It's called Ritual. They're still pretty big in the black metal scene, but he's got a great voice. It's very like 90s grunge, so he's very soulful. It's really good. We got this kid playing drums. He's talented. Very talented guy. So he's we're gonna start a movie. You guys want to sit and watch a movie with us? Very direct. Very honest. Yeah. So we're going to watch a little of this and then get into the Cayenne. Oh, absolutely. Get some good stage spot. She came to an event, and I met her at the Oak Tree. Long story short, he does stuff at the Oak Tree, so I was trying to get into the Oak Tree to do some stuff, and he hit me up about doing a drum circle at their open house, and so I went and did that, and Kristen was there doing tarot reading,
So that's how I met her and told her about this event. She's like, "Oh, I actually found this." So she came. She's like, "Oh, this is great! I get to sing and do stuff that I don't get to do anywhere else." You know, so she's really been into it, and everyone's into it. And we've known her for a couple of years, and I just started teaching her. Yeah, so she just got a guitar. So she picked it up quick. You know, like she's like already writing. So we went to the guitar center and we got a guitar center. Yeah, strap. Please we weren't sure how we were set up because there was a bit but yeah, she's cool. Yeah, very genuine person. Cool. Well, if you guys want to grab a plate or grab something to drink,
Oh, there's a lot. We have to talk.
I know. You really do.
That's a key.
So that's sorry, I heard something about that. So far. That's how we it's just, yeah, it's just, we wanted to take care of, like, you're one of our work. People work like talent. So we probably want to just off this up. Yeah. But not only did I have to take reductions, I missed that. I would love to do that every day. No. And then after I drop her off, I have to drive 2 hours south.
it's gonna be smarter than the TV.
The second thing, which was yeah, it was Thursday because we was so I got her signed her in. So much simply.
All right. Yeah.
That's good, man.
One of the teachers, she's like, well, what's on the trash now? But you never know. I mean, you can look at it if you want. I was so mad.
Oh yeah.
Never just like
And then I drove to work. And then this time I told her I was okay with that stuff. So, and I'll take this to
You know, barbershop in this. These are the bellows.
You want to tell me?
So this music is the bellows behind there. You can get a broom. Actually, just go in here. See, I have this one set as a drone and for the good believe it. Yeah, it's probably at least 4, I would think.
yeah, that schedule, that type of schedule.
Well, make yourselves at home. What we're going to do is, hi everybody watching at home. I mean, Mom. Just kidding. Like more people than Mom. What I kind of wanted to do tonight was, it's spring, so kind of spring into the new season with something a little different. Usually I kind of do a whole lecture and I have a whole thing kind of laid out. I went to a haunted house convention this week, and so it was like I was so enamored with work, and then I got back. It was just a crazy week. So I thought what I'd do is really just give an introduction to Hazrat Inayat Khan and the Sufi message, and show you a little documentary called The Way of the Heart that really does a great job of showing kind of who he was and what the Sufi message is all about. And it really will touch, especially the second half, touches a lot on attunement, tuning into something more than what we are, tuning into our higher self, or letting something else come through us, which is really what I try to teach. It's my hope that I inspire people in a way that makes them want to go, man, that guy makes me want to go home and like pick up my guitar and practice or do this, or we all have players and people that we've seen that make us feel that way. So that's a big aspiration of mine, and through teaching this message and just feeling I feel so indebted to this man, and I've never met him. Maybe it was 100 years ago. He passed away, or that he came anyway. And I love this man, and I love what he teaches and how he says it, and how he projects it. His family, I just feel indebted to them. And just to give you a little history on me, how I came to this. Vince has heard this so many times. We're talking about it quite well, but I was into martial arts and a lot of other spirituality. My dad was a church choir director, so I was raised in a Christian home, and always had this real spiritual connection with music. But I was also really rebellious and very hyperactive and just totally angry about a lot of things. And so I went the heavy metal route, and that was my thing. But I always felt like there was something more that could be done with those sounds and those frequencies and the intention. Does it always have to be angry? Does it always have to be about sex and getting laid? Can it be about something more? So I've always been one that really liked songs that tell a story, that really are from a heartfelt experience, that kind of thing. And I always wanted to kind of go farther into that. So I was working at West LA Music, and a guy in the DJ department was friends with the cashier girl that I was friends with, and she said, "Hey, so-and-so says I should go to the bookstore, Bodhi Tree Bookstore, and buy this book, The Music of Life by Hazrat Inayat Khan." She had to write it down so she could remember his name, and I'd never heard of him. So we went, and we were looking around. She found this book, The Music of Life, and while she was looking at that, I found The Mysticism of Sound and Music, this very book here, and I was flipping through it, and it just, like I was telling him, it was like a flashlight that turned on in my heart. It was like just, it opened up something in me that I couldn't even explain at that moment in the bookstore. And I had to have it, and I read it. And he just so poetically said everything that I try to express in words about my love and passion for music. You know, I was always that guy that, man, if I could just get with an A&R guy at a label and just tell them about how I feel and the feeling and the passion and the, you know, what I'm trying to do, they'll get it. You know, yeah, they won't. But you know, that was my feeling. You know, and that's what I tried to convey. And when I read this book, it just opened up so much in me, and I was like, I didn't know what Sufism was. I didn't know anything, and even just his image, like on the front, his picture alone is so striking to me. You know, it just, I don't know, it really just jumps out. So what I thought we'd do a little bit tonight is there's a few passages that I want to read of his, but we have the short documentary. It's only an hour long. My lectures are usually longer than that. So I thought what we do is just watch the film, and if at any point somebody wants to stop and kind of focus on that point or go into it deeper or has any questions, or you want to make a mental note of something, talk about it afterwards, we'll just do the documentary, and I only have one or two really short sayings, phrases here that just to kind of attune ourselves to, and then we'll do a little short jam. There's a song that we'll hear in here, which is the zikr. They explain zikr and what that is. In Sufism, that's really our practice, our main meditation, our main chant is the zikr, which is really just using one of the names of God to continually repeat and get yourself in that state of attunement. It's kind of like a polishing the heart is what we call it. So there's a lot of movement, things like that that are done. We do it with or without movement. And he had a really cool singing version of it that he did that was very unique to him. I mean, there's not a lot of Sufi groups that are doing it. I know the Rouhaniyat does it. Pir Shabda is a guy that still really does a lot with that work. But I thought it'd be just nice to just touch upon that and do a little bit of that and just kind of move into music from there. So without further ado, I'm going to start the film. For those of you at home, I'm not going to turn the computer onto the TV out of respect for the makers of the movie. I don't want to like give away the movie on the internet. But I did put a link down in on the Google Hangouts there. If you're on Google Hangouts or on holisticmusician.com, double click and go over to Google Hangouts, and there's a little link there where you can actually watch the film for free online. And that'll be also on holisticmusician.com. But you're welcome to just sit and meditate with us, listen to it. You're going to be able to hear it just fine. You can hear all the stuff. And yeah, join us that way. And then afterwards, we'll get into a little commentary. Here is the way of the heart. And if anybody wants to get out and get something to eat or drink, please feel free. Good. I'll do it the old-fashioned way.
New York, 2010. Travel back exactly 100 years when a young Indian with a mission arrived in this city and was surprised by what he called the great rapidity of things. He brought with him the ancient wisdom of Sufism, and his aim was to inspire the West with a new vision of God. The name of the young man with the piercing eyes was Inayat Khan.
So much of our lives are spent in experiencing outer experience through our outer senses. So much of our work, so much of our striving to maintain our material existence, so much of, even regretfully, religion and belief these days have become more material, more outer. And here's someone who said, touch the inner and touch the outer. Bring the two together, and you will create your own experience of God, and which is unique to you, and is the gift that you've brought here, you as a human being. And it's a gift that every human being has.
The divine message is the answer to the cry of soul, individually and collectively. The divine message is life, and it is light.
It's the depth and the wisdom of his teaching. It just speaks to your heart, directly to your heart. It's not that complicated, not totally intellectual, but again, it is very much rooted in everyday life and living.
What does it mean to be in the world and not of the world? What does it mean to be of service to humanity and not just to myself? How can I soften to better serve the greater purpose?
If anybody asks you, what is Sufism? What religion is it? You may answer, Sufism is the religion of the heart, the religion in which one thing is most important, and that is to seek God in the heart of mankind.
That's the song. You know, it's the heart. And then on my chest. Yeah.
The young man from India was to leave an extraordinary mark in the West in a very short time. The Sufism he taught appealed to people looking for something spiritual, but less narrowly prescriptive and more inclusive than the religions they knew.
People believe salvation comes from just being a member of a religion. This is a man-made idea, not God-made. God is the Father of the whole world, and all are entitled to be called his children.
Sufism is not a religion in the sense that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are religions. They are mutually exclusive in their outer form. But Sufism is a spiritual path that is compatible with and which lies at the heart of all of the great revealed traditions.
Inayat Khan taught the universality of Sufism, the belief that in essence all religions look towards the same light and share a human longing for the divine. He devised a worship service with candles or lamps and scriptures on the altar, each representing one of 6 great world religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. A 7th represents all those, known or unknown, who have held aloft the light of truth. Above, a lamp stands for God, the divine light.
Any concept of God is just a concept in the end. It's just an idea. And some ideas might be more satisfying than others. But in the end, they're all just ideas. And ultimately, Sufism is concerned with getting beyond ideas and getting to experience.
Inayat Khan's legacy can be found in the immense quantity of material that he left behind. He was a prolific lecturer, and these books and papers recording his talks are carefully preserved and treasured for the wisdom they contain and for what they tell us about the man himself. In charge of the archives is Professor Donald Graham. Like most who have been initiated into Sufism, He has a given Arabic name. In his case, Sharif, meaning noble or honored.
Inayat Khan was born in Baroda in the state of Gujarat in India in 1882. And he was born into a remarkable family of musicians. He just was bubbling with enthusiasm about music, and in fact became so proficient. He sang in what is called the Drupad style, and he played the veena, the ancient instrument said to have been invented by Shiva himself. And quite early on, he started traveling to the courts of the Maharajas, where regularly they held contests for musicians. Almost always he would win these contests, and when he would win, he would get a big gold medal. It was real gold, it was worth something. Although later on he lost them. He left them behind in a taxi.
But while the young Inayat was enjoying success as a musician, it became clear that he was also unusually spiritual. The discipline of Sufism required long hours of meditation, of emptying the mind to tune into the divine. At its most advanced stage, it leads to a state Hindus call samadhi, when the person meditating feels at one with the whole of creation. Inayat Khan developed this facility at an early age. For 3 years, the young man studied with a famous Sufi mystic called Abu Hashim Madani.
And it was after this very intense period that his teacher was nearing the end of his life and gave to Inayat the commission to, he said, fare forth into the world, my son, and unite East and West in your music. Spread the wisdom of Sufism abroad, for to this end you are gifted by Allah, the merciful, the compassionate.
New York in 1910 was an affluent, bustling, modern city where ragtime was all the rage. It was a very different world in every sense from the one Inayat Khan had left. He had brought with him from India his brothers and a cousin, and the 5 young men called themselves the Royal Musicians of Hindustan. They made their living giving concerts to fascinated but probably rather bewildered audiences. At that time, Indian music seemed impenetrable and mysterious to Western ears. But for Inayat Khan, music was at the center of everything, the quickest way to the heart and the most direct line to God.
He used music to reach the state of samadhi. And he said that normally that takes a number of hours of meditation to achieve that state. But by the help of music, he says, one could reach it within half an hour. So his great theme was really that the aesthetic experience, contemplative, once that becomes contemplative, aesthetic, is really the thing which leads most readily and most easily in a way to that kind of meditative state of mysticism, to that samadhi which they are in search of.
The mystics of all ages have loved music most, and those who attain to that perfect peace, which is called samadhi, do this more easily through music. The effect that they experience is the unfoldment of the soul, the opening of the intuitive faculties, and their heart, so to speak, opens to all the beauty which is within and without, uplifting them, and at the same time bringing them that perfection for which every soul yearns.
He also said the future religion of humanity will be music. And he emphasized that all of the religious differences, all of the disputes that people have are because our beliefs are expressed in words. And as long as things are expressed in words, you can have arguments about the meaning of those words.
People in the West were brought up with the idea of an all-powerful and remote God far away in heaven. Sufism turned that on its head, saying that every human being can experience God directly. Most revolutionary of all was the idea that God created humankind to reflect his own divinity.
So creation, the emergence of the universe, can be understood on the same principle, that the eternal life felt the need to express itself, to release something that was hidden in its own depths. And in the language of the Sufis, this is the hidden treasure. According to a sacred tradition, God speaks and says, I was a hidden treasure, and I long to be known. And so I created the world that I might be known. And so the universe was breathed out, Nafas ar-Rahman, as a great sigh of compassion. The whole flaring forth of the universe is the exhalation of God, seeking release, seeking expression and witnessing. We all come from this motive force, God's own desire to know him herself. And we are the representatives of that desire, the delegates of the desire, propelled on the waves of that longing, that yearning.
In Sufi poetry, you also find, I am the eyes through which God sees.
Oh, hi guys. Good to see you. My brother Danny and you Crowder here. And what was your name? Sheena. Welcome. We're just watching a short documentary about Hazrat Inayat Khan. Because I talk about him all the time, I figured it'd be easier to so everybody know a little bit about him and what he's. So we're not too far into it. Just gonna back it up.
To hear cool things about
yeah, isn't it like he breathed the universe into existence? Like everything became. That's the whole idea of home. You know, is that vibration gave birth to all things. I liked it. To me, that's I can't with that.
I am.
That's his
To
grandson.
know him herself.
He is our current
And
leader
we are
of the
the-
Sufi order. Yeah, it's Hazrat's grandson.
So I created the world.
Sufism turned that on its head, saying that every human being can experience God directly. Most revolutionary of all was the idea that God created humankind to reflect his own divinity.
So creation, the emergence of the universe, can be understood on the same principle, that the eternal life felt the need to express itself, to release something that was hidden in its own depths. And in the language of the Sufis, this is the hidden treasure. According to a sacred tradition, God speaks and says, I was a hidden treasure, and I long to be known. And so I created the world that I might be known. And so the universe was breathed out, Nafas ar-Rahman, as a great sigh of compassion. The whole flaring forth of the universe is the exhalation of God, seeking release, seeking expression and witnessing. We all come from this motive force, God's own desire to know Him herself. And we are the representatives of that desire, the delegates of the desire, propelled on the waves of that longing, that yearning.
In Sufi poetry, you also find, I am the eyes through which God sees. I am the ears through which God hears. I am the feet through which God walks. I am the hands through which God creates things. So we are an instrument for the divine. And we are very necessary. And this makes a very great difference in the way you look at your life and at yourself. It changes so much if the awareness is there that this is my purpose and I just have to be completely myself. I'm a unique being, and by being myself, I am the best instrument for the divine to discover itself or to get to know itself.
If every human being embodies the divine, there is no need to look beyond the world we know to regulate our lives. Sufism has no formal rules, no dogma. Inayat Khan urged people to observe the natural world around them and train themselves to understand what it had to teach.
There is one holy book, the sacred manuscript of nature, the only scripture which can enlighten the reader.
By this, he does not mean that all the holy books are not valid, but he means that what they are referring to is also evident throughout the creation. That, in fact, for the person who has come to realization, the leaf of a tree is a page out of the holy books. That everything that exists speaks of its creator, of its divine source, if you can only learn to hear it.
This is the little song I want to kind of start our jam off with.
Inayat Khan's message resonated with many people who were disillusioned with conventional religion. After the First World War, he traveled widely in America, England, and Europe, lecturing and teaching. The number of his followers grew rapidly. They all called him Murshid, or spiritual guide. They were attracted not only by what he had to say, but also by his remarkable personality.
Suddenly here was a person who seemed to speak with authority from his own knowledge of things. That greatly impressed people because their own clergymen didn't talk that way. Then there was also what you would call his charisma. He just gave people the impression that not only did he have this great knowledge and this kind of spiritual power, but also that he cared deeply about them personally. Somebody who would speak directly to their own hearts.
In the 1920s, he settled in a suburb of Paris, in a house he called Fazl Manzil, meaning house of blessing, where he held meetings and gave lectures. In an age in which men dominated business and politics and religion, Inayat Khan was emphatic about the importance of women, not only in his organization, but in the world.
I see as clear as daylight that the hour is coming when women will lead humanity to a higher evolution.
He appointed 4 women as leaders or murshidas: Rabia Martin, Sharifa Goodenough, Sophia Sainsbury Green, and Fazl Mai Echling. He had married an American, Ora Ray Baker, in 1913, and together they had 4 children. There are very few people today with first-hand memories of Inayat Khan. His younger son, Hidayat, is over 90 years old.
Of course, for us, 9 years old, he was like a grandfather, but at the same time, father and even a friend. Because of course, when he was at home and when we were just together in the family house, he played with us like every loving father does. One could imagine a prophet of the olden times. One could imagine very inspiring sage, and also one could imagine just the most loving personality. He was so tremendously noble. He didn't pretend to be, but he was it. He could not move without doing it in a noble way. He could not walk without doing it in a noble way. And when he talked, it was a noble way of talking.
The elder son, Vilayat, who was eventually to become a successor to his father, remembered the power of his personality.
On Saturday evening, there were no lectures during the whole day. The Murshid would start meditating and would sit on the roof, the terrace of the mountain, and he would get into a state of samadhi. He would be in that state throughout the day. In the evening, he was in such a high state that he couldn't walk. He would have one person on each side taking him up to the hall, and then people would have to sit in silence in the hall, and he sat, there was a curtain, he sat behind the curtain, and each murid would come up and sit before him for a few minutes. And then he would just open his eyes, look into their eyes, close his eyes again, and then they would move on to the next person. And those were, of course, the most sacred moments. And I remember Shadil, who was the national representative in Germany, whom I met afterwards, and he said, looking into those eyes, just like looking into heaven. And it was just like you're looking into heaven.
I just want to pause for a minute. That was Pir Vilayat. Pir Vilayat was his son, who was the successor that took over after him. And he was, Razak and I are in the same Sufi group, our teacher. Our team studied with him for 35 years. Passed away, I think it was 5 years ago or so, 2010. But yeah, she's been with him for a long time. So he was a remarkable man too. He really took everything that his father taught and put science into it too. He was really interested in science, so he got really into how quantum physics played into all this and that kind of thing. So he's really remarkable man, Pir Vilayat. I just wanted to mention that.
Pir Vilayat is also a really good writer. Like one of my favorite books is that one he did Message in Our Time. Oh yeah, he took all of his dad's teachings and put it back to the 70s. He put it all in modern James.
Yeah, if you're familiar with like Ram Dass or some of those guys from that era, the 60s and that kind of thing, Pir Vilayat was right in line with all those guys.
In 1926, Inayat Khan was 44 years old, and he was filmed at a ceremony in the garden. The foundation stone for a temple of all religions was being laid. There were now several thousand of his followers in America and Europe, and many believed that he already wanted his 10-year-old son Vilayat to succeed him. A few weeks later, he left for a visit to India, and shortly after, the shocking news arrived that he had fallen ill and died. Every year, on the anniversary, there are ceremonies at his tomb in Delhi, India. His followers come from every corner of the world to pay their respects. For many people, he is quite simply the most important figure in their lives.
Hazrat Inayat Khan was someone who, the beauty of the essence of what a human being can be shown through so elegantly. And his words carry that, his atmosphere that we see in photographs carry that. And then when you visit with your own inner feeling and connect to what you feel that ideal is, you connect with that sense of beauty that arises from liberty. And for me, and for many of the people here, Hazrat Inayat Khan is the most elegant and beautiful example of a human being who manifested that.
There's certainly Sufi thought and belief about life after death. You know, it's one of these great mysteries, you know, that it's hard to know. But there's a Rumi poem that I like that kind of, it says, on the day I die, while I'm being carried towards the grave, don't weep. Don't say he's gone, he's gone. Death has nothing to do with going away. The sun sets and the moon set, but they're not gone. Death is a coming together. The tomb looks like a prison, but it's really a release into union.
Pour upon us thy love and our light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls.
Today, 80 years on, Inayat Khan still seems very much alive, even to generations born long after his death.
Thy joy and thy peace.
I think of him as a friend, actually. More than anything, I think about him as a friend, and the kind of friend who is completely accepts me as I am, and at the same time is always someone to look up to. So it's this wonderful role of, when I'm stuck trying to work something out, one of the questions that comes up for me is, and what would Musha do?
After the funeral ceremonies, the question of succession arose. He had talked of wanting his son Vilayat to succeed him, but the boy was only 10 years old, and his 3 uncles assumed the leadership. When Vilayat came of age, he started a parallel association, which he called the Sufi Order International, and became its peer or spiritual leader. Meanwhile, the original Sufi movement continued to be run by Inayat Khan's musician brothers, who had been spiritually trained by him personally. Each in turn became leader of the movement, but music remained a central part of their lives. Mahbub Khan wrote songs and set many of Inayat's words to music. Ali Khan, who followed him, became known for his great gifts as a healer. The youngest of the three brothers, Musharraf Khan, was an outstanding storyteller. He was head of the Sufi movement until his death in 1967. During his time, the Sufi movement built a striking temple on sand dunes by the sea in Holland, where Inayat Khan had liked to walk. Vilayat was an extraordinary man who brought his own energy and intense spirituality to the Sufi order. Music was as important to him as it had been for his father, but he gave up his formal studies to take on the responsibilities of leader. As a young man, he loved to climb mountains and rode a motorcycle. He was a fine cello player and studied at the Paris Conservatoire. In the Second World War, he served on a minesweeper that was sunk. His eldest sister, Noor, was another gifted musician and a deeply spiritual pupil of her father's. She volunteered to work with the French resistance, then was betrayed and shot by the Gestapo. After the war, the Paris house became a center of activity, although, like his father, Vilayat traveled constantly.
I'm just going to pause there real quick just to point out Noor Nisa, his daughter. She's a really heralded war hero from World War II. There's actually a PBS documentary about her that just came out. We'll have another movie night another time to watch that. I have a really close connection with her that I'll go into another time. But she's kind of like a guardian angel to me. It's hard to talk about her. She's a remarkable woman, and she was a telegraph operator in occupied France during World War II. And the Nazis were in there, and she was working with the British intelligence to try to get information sent back that would help drop off weapons and rations and things like that when the soldiers needed. And she lasted, I think, about 6 weeks longer than anybody else in her regiment or her group. And she was captured and later martyred and killed. But just a remarkable, remarkable story. Just really interesting to tie in. Just that's, I think, my veneration for this family, and just the whole, like, his work was so striking. It's so amazing. And then his son's work, and then his daughter's work, and then now his grandson. It's just, they're really carrying on something that's just very precious. I just want to mention a little bit about her, just to give you a little more. It kind of breeze over her, but she's really remarkable herself. Noor Nisa and I.
Now, instead of identifying with the physical light, you identify with the light of intelligence.
As he grew older, membership of the Sufi order increased, particularly in the 1960s and 70s. He set up summer camps, and his teaching resonated with young people.
So that is the most important moment in one's life, when one decides that one is going to take it upon oneself to be of service. One needs to be very clear as to what one is promising. One must never make promises one can't keep. It happened to me several times in my life because my mother wanted to spare me all the hardships that it means to be the head of a Sufi order. I wanted me to be a musician, and there was a moment when I think I must be 16 or 17, when I pledged myself to prepare myself for the mission of spreading the Sufi message at all costs. It's a pledge. Then there's no turning back then.
Many of today's Sufi followers were attracted by his charisma.
Sometimes it was like an eagle just penetrating through your being, just the way he would look. And people would say, oh, he was just speaking to me. It had that kind of impact. Or he would look with just the most kindness in his being at a person. And they would just feel seen in this deeper dimension of their soul.
Around this time, he met his partner, Taj Inayat.
He had incredible both endurance and fragility combined, which I think is a unique combination of qualities. In some ways, life was a fight. And yes, he had a joy and a way of lifting people and inspiring them.
Taj and Pir Vilayat's elder son was destined to succeed his father. Shortly before his death, Pir Vilayat formally initiated Zia as the next leader of the Sufi order.
The universe is inviting us, urging us, compelling us to become more fully who we are.
Das Universum drängt uns.
Today, Zia is spiritual leader of the Sufi Order International, the largest of the worldwide organizations that trace their origins to the same root. The International Sufi Movement, the Sufi Ruhaniyat, the Sufi Way, and the Sufi Contact all take their inspiration equally from the teaching of Inayat Khan. Today, there are more of his followers than ever before. Sufism attracts people of all ages and backgrounds. At summer camps or retreats, experienced Sufis and newcomers spend time together and explore the inner journey that can lie ahead.
Life is not just a blessing, which it is, but life is an incredible responsibility if we choose to take it. Because we each are the agent of God's potentiality. And if you want to believe that this all-powerful oneness stopped living and changing and growing and experiencing, then in a sense you're committing heresy. Because you're saying that God can't do that God has to be fixed. And I don't believe that we're here for that. I believe we're here to allow ourselves, our intelligence, our hearts, our souls, our personalities, to be an instrument through which the universe can begin to become personal, intimate, to love and to be loved and to feel loss and to feel gain and to be perplexed, to not know everything, to experience it but not to know everything. There is a place.
My greatest aspiration was to know the truth, to realize the truth, to be able to see beyond appearances. And something within me knows that there is a higher reality, there is a greater truth than the one that is known to us by our physical senses, and to be able to reach that truth and to live it.
There's sadness in our lives, there's sadness in this world. There are people in this room who have undergone great tragedies, lived through great, great tragedies, inexplicable tragedies. That's part of the human condition.
For those who feel a deep, profound personal call to undertake spiritual study, well, then one has to find out which path to follow. These paths are rooted in sacred tradition. These paths are well-trodden paths. And what Moshe brought was one such path. And for the one who feels certain resonance with Moshe, with his being, with his words, so forth, perhaps one is called to this particular path.
So we could do a meditation, would that be all right?
Meditation is one of the most important of what the Sufis call the practices, methods to train the mind and the heart to become increasingly aware of the inner truth.
Imagine yourself dissolving, so that instead of becoming a sensory receptor, with our physical senses receiving inspiration, we become consciousness, that which receives the inspirations from the outside.
It is a discipline that is learned by passing through stages of concentration and contemplation, and ultimately leads to realization. It becomes a habit fundamental to a Sufi's life.
The mind in its untrained state is like a wild horse. It gallops in all directions whenever it has a chance. And part of practice is to train the mind to hold steady and to discover that we're not at the mercy of the mind and whatever it wants to do, but we are the master and we can control our minds.
In seeking God, in attaining spirituality, we do not need to use so much intellect, because this does not come by the intellect. It comes by the tuning of the heart.
The point is to be in tune. The analogy is to a musical instrument. You are like a musical instrument. And you're there for the master musician, that is God, to play on that instrument. But if the instrument is out of tune, if the strings are broken, if the sounding board is damaged in some way, then the music is not very good. It's not possible for even the greatest musician to play well on an instrument that's not in tune. So the idea is to become in tune, and then you become the divine melody being played. And this is very agreeable not only for you, but also for the people you encounter.
There are those with great worldly responsibility who have found benefit in balancing their inner and outer lives. Caravan of Souls, one of the leaders of the Sufi movement, was once the Dutch Minister of Finance and head of the International Monetary Fund.
I think it made it much easier to fulfill these functions with their difficulties and their responsibilities, because in your meditations, when you continue that is important. You must continue it. You must not say, I have no time. That is a mistake, because doing it makes it easier for you to carry out these responsibilities, because you every time, in the morning and the evening, you can detach yourself from these responsibilities, the worries, the concerns, these problems that otherwise will all the time continue in your mind and tire you. And you have these moments of rest. If you can detach yourself, then you are fresh again, and you come to your office to take the decisions that have to be taken. Great concentration, getting yourself, but also not too attached to how it will work out.
I feel that ultimately, in meditation, we're coming back to the essence of our own lives, and to see that it's not only our own lives, but there's an interconnectivity that we have with all of humanity. And that's very important. But there's so many kinds of practices that we do that bring us into a meditative state. And well, for me personally, music is very important. This is what drew me to the path to begin with. Creating music, singing together with people. I find that a way of harmonizing on a very deep level, so that the mind just takes a vacation and I can really open up to what is revealed in the moment for me.
Music and movement have always been central to the Sufi experience. They belong to a deep place in the human psyche. The dances of universal peace were not part of Inayat Khan's original practices. They were a later innovation by one of his pupils, Murshid Samuel Lewis, and have become very popular in some of the Sufi organizations.
We have a great blessing in the Ruhaniyat that during Murshid Sam's life, he received inspiration to move, hold hands, and sing together. So it's very common in any gathering that we hold that the first thing we do is we hold hands in a circle or many circles. And the moment you hold hands, you feel affection, you feel part of a family, you feel interconnected. And then when you move in rhythm and you sing, the cares of the day, the worries, the anxieties, they find relief in community and in prayer, in ecstasy, in joy, and sharing. Because of the blessing of those practices and how appealing they are, they led people to art.
I think the dances appeal to a certain personality. And there's some people that they come into the dances and they feel very uplifted. And they feel a sense of optimism and hope that perhaps was lacking in their life. So that may be a doorway into the Sufi teachings. But there are many doorways into the teachings. In the Sufi movement, we don't, the dances have not been part of our repertoire of practices.
I think it is a matter that people are attracted to different personalities. People express in different ways. I use words, for example, and I love music, so I may use music. But maybe I'm not that familiar with or comfortable with leading dances. So my way may not be a way of attunement through movement. It may be a way of attunement through conversation. It may be a way of attunement through music. It may be a way of attunement through laughter, through humor. I think that's all that happens.
But then there are many other practices which take you deeply into your own experience. Practices using the breath, practices using different wazifas or sacred phrases.
When the heart is not sympathetic, there is something missing in the mentality of man, and it is sympathy that opens it. The Sufis know the medicine for this disease, and it is the practice of the art which is called zikr.
The word zikr means remembrance, remembering the divine. Wanting to have every breath be in that kind of awareness. There's different types of zikr. There's silent zikr, there's spoken zikr, there's sung zikr, and there's personal practice of zikr, there's group zikr. So you put yourself into this remembrance, most often using one of the 99 names of Allah. Even if we didn't know the meaning of the words, the sounds have such a value in and of themselves. Not only that they've been repeated for such a long time, and by so many people, but also just the sound quality that brings something out of us. And by the repetition, we're really offering ourselves in a deep prayerful way to have this experience that's not separate from our source.
So we don't get to know God through speculation, through philosophical syllogisms, and so forth. We get to know God by clearing the slate, getting back to what is primal, getting back to what is primordial in our own being, in our own consciousness. So for this to be possible, we have to more and more get beyond notions, concepts, and that is a part of our essential practice, which is the zikr, which involves saying first of all, La ilaha. And that means no God. And when we're saying that, we're wiping the slate clean, removing all preconceptions, all notions, all concepts, and going right down into the inner depths of our own being. La ilaha. La ilaha, no God, illallah, except Allah. When we say except Allah, that does not mean no God except the God that we happen to believe in. Instead, it means not my knowledge of God, but God's own knowledge of God through me. Not my little self, my personal self, speculating about what God might be like, but myself splitting open and unraveling and becoming a transparent medium through which the essence of the universe, sheer reality, reveals itself to itself. And then we incline the head toward the heart and say, who brings that knowledge, that divine self-knowledge, right down into the heart, into the essence of our own life story.
For the serious student of Sufism, these practices are deepened by a lengthy and rigorous study of the teachings of Inayat Khan.
There are two kinds of studies. One kind is by reading the teachings of the great thinkers and keeping them in mind, the study of metaphysics, psychology, and mysticism. And the other kind is the study of life.
And it is to everyday life that the Sufi must return, balancing the inner and the outer experiences.
Sufism is about saying, okay, where am I right now? What am I deeply yearning for? And what is getting in my way of finding that? And then you begin to do the work of, deeply exploring oneself, one's relationship to other people, to society, to everything, every organization and individual we interact with. And it's not always fun, but there is something that comes out of it that is deeply liberating, and we find aspects of ourselves that we never knew existed.
It allows you, if you open your heart, open yourself up, it allows you to connect with humanity and bring out the qualities of compassion and empathy and connect to the suffering that's going on in the world. And hopefully it compels you to want to participate in trying to find solutions to those problems.
Sufi teaching lays emphasis on the importance of going out into the world and connecting with fellow human beings, particularly those in need. In a deprived neighborhood in Delhi, close to the tomb of Inayat Khan, the Hope Project brings education, medical care, and self-respect to the very poorest children. It was Pir Vilayat's inspiration and is still supported by the Sufi order in collaboration with the Sufi Ruhaniyat.
The end and the sum total of all mysticism, philosophy, and meditation, of everything one learns and develops, is to be a better servant to humanity.
Osho speaks of the smiling forehead, that when one is attuned to the sacred, though the mouth may not be smiling, the whole countenance seems to radiate light. When you look out with your eyes, you look through the glance of the prophetic glance, the glance that sees the divine in all appearances. Wheresoever you turn, there is God's face. All of the senses become outlets for the prophetic consciousness to which you are attuned. And when you walk in the prophetic footsteps. And then, faced with challenges, faced with threats, faced with pressures, one does not react, but rather one acts from the depths of one's being. One is prepared to face whatever may come. One will be God's witness. One will serve. Wherever light may be spread, wherever hope may be kindled, wherever tenderness may be offered, one will serve.
The glory of the omnipresent God, rekindle this light, symbolically representing the traditions of the great ones.
The universal worship is the worship that Moshe got inspired to in the beginning of the last century. And at this time, it was really revolutionary.
Symbolically representing the Hindu religion.
This idea to take a big altar and to put all the different world religions on this altar in the form of a candle and in form of the sacred scriptures for all the religions.
Symbolically representing the Buddhist religion, the Zoroastrian religion, the Jewish religion, the Christian religion, the religion of Islam. We kindle this light, symbolically representing all those who, whether known or unknown to the world, have held aloft the light of truth through the darkness of human ignorance.
Titi Vaikuta, Nechre Tevyanach Aikana, Devashmaya Afbe'ara.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid
ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
Was soll ich tun? Was soll ich lassen, damit ich wachen Herzens voll begreife und niemals vergesse?
Honor these different religions by reading from the different scriptures that, of course, contain the thinking of people at the time when these scriptures were developing. But they also were all inspired by the divine wisdom. So we invite people from all religions to celebrate this unity. One religion fights against the next one, and so many wars are just coming from the background of my God is the right God and your God is the wrong God. And if you honor your God, then you are a heathen or you are a non-believer. This is a contribution that we have as Sufis for peace in the world.
Most gracious Lord, Master, Messiah, and Savior of humanity, we greet thee with all humility. Thou art the first cause and the last effect, the divine light and the spirit of guidance, Alpha and Omega. Thy light is in all forms, thy love in all beings, in a loving mother, in a kind father, in an innocent child, in a helpful friend, in an inspiring teacher. Allow us to recognize thee in all thy holy names and forms, as Ram, as Krishna, as Shiva, as Buddha. Let us know thee as Abraham, as Solomon, as Zarathustra, as Moses, as Jesus, as Muhammad, and in many other names and forms known and unknown to the world. We adore thy path. Thy presence deeply enlightens our being, and we look for thy blessing in the future.
We have a certain number of days left on earth. We don't know how many. We have a certain number of encounters, meetings, experiences, ordeals. We don't know how many. But this we know, we are in service. Nothing can change this. We have been brought forth out of emptiness to serve. Earth has churned out these bodies that with these hands we may serve. We will serve and then we will disappear. We will slip back into the earth and this body will be soil again and water and birds and fish, and this spirit within will fly back to its source with news from the frontier. What news shall we bring? The story of our heart.
So there you have it.
First time I've seen that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sitting through that. I know that was a lot to take in one sitting. But hopefully it gives you a little kind of a peek into kind of what kind of ignited a spark in me. You know, I just, the whole idea of music being the central focus of spiritual devotion to me really spoke to me. That's what really drove me to the path. Again, you know, discovering this book, The Mysticism of Music and Sound, it just says things in a way that I couldn't express what I was trying to get out musically or what I was trying to say. Like I was telling these guys earlier, like I used to have that attitude, like if I could just sit with that A&R guy and just tell him, you know, how passionate I am about this particular thing that I'm trying to express through music, they would totally get it because it's different than what everybody else is doing. But as we know, that's not really the way it works. But we can hope that, we can desire that, we can still create something with that intention and that intensity. So that's really been my desire, is to create in a way that has that kind of presence and that kind of magnetism that Version had. Like I said, just the way that he expresses all life, all creation, all religion, all creative force with music, it just opened something in me. So I hope that kind of gave you a little glimpse of you know, kind of what ignited that spark in me, but you know what Sufism is about and what Version is about, and what we're continuing to try to do as a Sufi movement, Sufi order, to share that message and to inspire people to continue on in that vein, you know, to create something with intention, with a purpose. You know, because we're all here to fulfill a purpose, whether we've discovered it yet or not. It's in us. It wants to come out. It wants to be expressed. So I just feel that's such a beautiful way of expressing it. What I'd like to do is just take that was a lot to take in. So let's just take a few, maybe 10-minute break, and if you guys want to get some food or something to drink or something, and then they did the zikr of Inayat Khan, which is just a sung meditation. I'd like to do maybe just 10 minutes of that with the harmonium, and just, you know, we can all play off that melody. Anybody who wants to grab an instrument, just go at it. You know, again, I never put any kind of like preconceived notion on any of the jam stuff. It's all about just wherever your spirit takes you. That's what it's about. And if it takes you someplace where later you're like, what was that I was trying to do? Who cares? It's just about expressing your soul. And I just want this to be a space where everybody feels free to do that. So yeah, grab a bite to eat, make yourselves at home. If you got any questions or anything you want to discuss about that, I do have like 2 little things of his. Okay, go ahead. Kitchen's open. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been working through some other stuff. There's tons of the idea that we are God itself through us.
Yeah. That to me is like that.
And that there's like a responsibility that you have, to
Yeah, that saying that he mentioned, you know, I was a hidden treasure longing to be known, so I created the world so that I could.
Right. I mean, like, well, that's what Casey said, that God shifted because he was lonely. And he wanted to create
something to
find out,
to express itself.
Exactly what, yeah. It's like you start asking the question, where do I come from? What is going on? You feel lonely at that moment. That's when you start reaching out to find answers. So it's the same.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I like that. It's always had a weird sort of hang up with like organized religion. My mom used to make me go to church and stuff, and it's always and I mean, it made sense, man.
Religion,
the message of it makes sense.
Yeah, when your religion is God.
Yeah.
What
I like
else
that
can there be?
it's all just coming from like just coming from the heart. Yeah. Self-expressive. It reminds me a little bit of like even Tao, like the Tao.
That's what
I
thought it was a Taoist.
Yeah.
That's where I was at.
And
I read this path.
And that's how I know it's kind of like, you know, you know when you hear truth, you know when you hear it, you're like, yeah, okay, I resonate with that. And so it's like that message I resonate with. The same thing with the Taoism. It's like,
absolutely.
You know, it's like the Tao that whatever that can be named is not the real now.
Yeah.
Because it's a mystery.
Yeah.
And it's about embracing that mystery.
You
And I
can't
love that.
put it into it.
Yeah.
You can't put it into a form. And that's what's great about this. It's a formless continuance of God moving in and out.
It's like as we evolve and learn to express ourselves and come into that in our own, it's a interesting sort of self-empowerment type of thing.
Yeah.
Which is there's a lot of other religions that are very like repressive, I feel. And this is more like self-empowerment.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's gonna be so, but I gotta get up for you.
You got it, brother.
So
we're so glad you came.
Good. Thanks, man. Yeah.
Anytime. I do it once a month. Anytime you can make it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Absolutely appreciate the information. You're a great host. Oh, thank you. Yeah, man. I know my lead. All right. Yeah.
You're back here. You're back
I
ordered a copy of that.
Yeah.
And, love this. Just keep snip it open. I can see myself seconds from now. Sometimes it's like myself.
How does our activity with this person?
They can hear me. I know. How was the last group? It was good. It was good. Did you go through the rest of the chapter, or?
I got a phone call like, so it was just too bad stories.
Okay.
I don't know how you started. All of those.
I read the rest of it, and I definitely had a few questions. Like there was one spot where it talked about how Muhammad always was always present because basically how every prophet was a prophet because he preceded them. It was something to that. It was how, because he received divine revelation, where everyone else was born into prophethood. He was the most revered prophet, or the most venerable prophet, or whatever. But they went on to say how, because of that, he always existed.
So how did you find?
For all those others to receive the revelation after him, even though they preceded him. I got all that, but what I didn't understand is, well, if he existed before all of that, wouldn't Christ, wouldn't Seth, wouldn't all the other prophets have existed just the same, because they're all coming from that same thread of knowledge. So that was my only like question that I want to bring up to Tony. I don't. Another interpretation of it. Yeah, see, that
It's always a hard question.
As a lot of it goes from
because that was the one thing that struck me. I was like, okay, I get that. I get what they're saying, but if his knowledge and his divine perception preceded all of the prophets, wouldn't it all come from the same source? You know, whether they were born into that divine prophethood, or they were given to them as a gift later. So that was my one question.
What came to
Yeah.
station like Jesus seeing
Oh, that's true. I didn't think it.
it's always
It's also-
each one has
Their own level or stage that they
which
have.
was just
It's a part of it.
Yeah.
It's a part of it.
yeah.
It's permanently fixed to, it's the way you sound, right? Like the laws, right?
That's a lot. One, basically this.
Oh, nice.
So. So like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. The drum, the violin, the cello, and
It's all kind of very concentrated, but now it can.
the woodcraft.
Oh, okay.
So that makes sense.
Word of mouth.
It's amazing they can read one sentence 5 times. This other.
No, I looked over and you were out. It was like, that energy is very
It's just so, it's so intense,
Yeah.
it's so deep. I think that you could literally
Yeah.
take one line.
It's normal when you
5
get to
times and get
a certain,
something
you
different.
know, because everybody vibrates at a certain level. And when you're in a different environment that's vibrating separately from you, it's going to raise you or drop you. And that happens. In energy healing, stuff like that, you know, the best thing is when somebody goes to sleep.
Really?
Because then they are their true self. Like they're not in the ego or the mind, or, you know, it's just they are.
Yeah.
I'm getting into it. Yeah, I've been Reiki attuned for a long time, and I just haven't used it, you know, other than for myself and people really close to me. So at the moment, I'm not. It was a time for me and getting back to me, you know, and be in a safe place that I can go through that.
That's another reason why. That's what I was thinking. So I was like,
Sometimes it's just, you know, in the quiet of a day, just find an hour a day just to sit and be, not to think, not to worry, not to analyze, just to be.
do it.
Tune out. Yeah.
Literally the whole time.
It takes practice. Yeah. Quieting, you know, the mind.
Yeah, that's
You know, it's beautiful. And I'll tell you, like, to get to that place, it's beautiful. It's empowering.
Yeah.
But I'm very easily swayed. So it makes me go quiet sometimes too. Like, you know, just, yeah, it's, I mean, I've been there, you know, sitting on a beach in Hawaii, the sun's going down, my tie in my hand, and I'm like, okay, this is what inner peace feels like. It's like, awesome now. What do I do with this? Like, how do I make this, you know, give this to somebody else? Like, you don't think you should well? What do you do? Oh, well, then, yeah, it's creative. It's, That's awesome. That's awesome. to produce, to create, to be, you know.
What's that?
You said everything that I need to hear tonight. Shut up and do it.
Wake up one day and that's how I'm absolutely.
I know, right? Everybody. Very hard. Very everything.
Hopefully, I just
people all around and buzzing it.
yeah, but I said, I think kind of so he was. Before even right. Yeah.
That's all right. Didn't you?
So I was back in Denver.
I thought he was good.
It's like was everyone spot there, just kind of hanging out. You can feel like there's
Just like
somewhere.
and I don't know if you remember. She is basically everything.
Okay, so
yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. We're just.
So that way I
It's kind of like also. So this here, it's not from here. Yes.
had to like spiritual library. I got books on everything, and I ain't read none of them.
Me too, right?
The entire series has shifted like blocks. So just all different kinds of spiritual books. Everything from conversations with God.
So that's why we'll start with that. Okay, to it. I see it. So I'm like, okay, just get to the
So that part, the last book that I read all the way through.
So first thing
Because just she's so way out there with all these.
well, that's good to teach you. But I would say that's not a good teacher. But yeah, I don't know. I never saw that. You're right. This is somehow I was something to evolve. I didn't get to say hi to you.
Yeah, you do more.
Yeah, well. Yeah. I thought that was why I realized. So that's to this kind of weird. Right. Right. Good. So what do you do? Well, I'll say I do. No, I knew somebody in high school who. Of course, you did. Yeah, he played.
Yeah, right? Totally.
But how do you change
Sorry. Check this out. Yeah, totally. What's wrong? What you doing? Oh, really? That's not what she said?
That's my sister said.
Oh, okay.
It's reminding me of that girl from that violence.
Oh, she did?
Yeah. Is she running away? Oh, I don't know.
She lives right the next building, or the next
Oh, I thought they were.
So that's why she had to go. So it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's okay. I get you snacks?
Yeah. Oh, it's nice to see to be express that. Yeah. It's not hard. No. We have to have that moment. That's all part of your experience. Yeah. Child scream. Do this. Let me know when you're done. Awesome.
I know. If she doesn't listen, she will listen. Right? You know that she doesn't want to listen to me. Because you don't want her to hear her. You always hear her mouth. I know she wanted to play with you, but she's not going to listen to you. Really? She was good. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, please do. And I'll give you a link too if you're interested. There's a site called wahadude.net, and they have all of his work on it. I'll show you here too. He basically did lectures for about 10 or 12 years. There's a 14-line set of all of his lectures. And then there's some additional books on top of that. Just a couple books that he read or wrote aside from that. But the whole series is on wahadude.net. So I can send you links to that. Yeah. Just shoot me a text and I'll make sure I get the spelling right. And if you go to holisticmusician.com,
Yeah, I already have it up.
Yeah, you can even go to scottbonheldt.com. I'll have, probably by Monday, I'll have the whole transcript of some
Stay about 7 of these things.
and I'll have a link to that video if you want to actually stream video online. Those are fair. Those are all just fair. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. So is at follow your heart?
Wherever that.
Yeah, function away. It's like a.
Feel free to grab any instrument you want to, like make yourself at home and like funk around with the keyboard and singing bowls.
I don't even know how to use them. I'm a lazy musician. Like I use a little machine that says, "No, you're sharp."
Yeah, follow your heart. I was a guitar player for the most part, and then I got into vocals a lot. And I took piano for a while, but never got great at it. But I can look up melodies, and I bought that over there. That's probably about $400 to $600 I saw it. That was so amazing. And it's like just trying to rethink the way that you approach music. Like I was sitting there trying to figure out my favorite Tool song.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, sure, right? Here, pull it right out of there. Pick it up. Pick it up. Yeah. Got to get on the squeeze box, yo. Sit in your lap. You can sit on your lap or on the table here. Oh, hello, down. And then, yeah, these, open it up. These are the different when I turn off. It's a trick, because look at this. You can go through and tune it for your drum. So like I said it for that drum. Actually, I
Have you used a singing bowl before?
Just a bit, like one, it's different.
These are all
These
different
go
drums.
around?
So yeah.
Yeah. They worked in. You just have to grab the little thing. Oh,
These are just to open the.
you can probably do it on the floor. Just put it on the
So
floor.
now pump it.
No, it's on the outside. It's beautiful. Like, I don't know. That's too cool.
It's hard to really shred on. I've heard some guys do it. This thing's cool, man. Just goes. So yeah, you can set a drone note, or you can go through here. And like I said, you can, if you find a note that you like to drone out on, you can move a little bar over with the drone on that. What's this used for back here? It's used in a lot of Indian music, so a lot of Qawwali music, what they call kirtan. Kirtan uses this all the time. So like a lot of Hindustani music, Indian music. Yeah, it's used in a lot of different things. It's like harmonica and a little sit-down rock. That's a lot like it. Yeah. There's a big one down there too.